This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to uncover the trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around you. We find the guests who can very cleverly articulate the trends shaping their business, what those trends are, how they're reacting to them, and the hope is that we can hear something, you and I can hear something from these people that will make us just a little bit better at what it is that we do. Let's begin. I must know conservatively 50 million bankers. They're everywhere around here. I can't imagine how our community is feeding so many different banks, but they seem to. And there are a lot of them, frankly. You probably experience the same. Every other person seems to be a banker. And they are a genteel breed, the bankers are. They have to be in order to do well in their jobs. They've got to be polite and kind and interested. However, one of the things that I experienced personally, personal story, is it's hard to get their attention unless you already have money, which is, of course, ironic. And if you're familiar with banking, you've heard this before. Most bankers aren't interested in you until you don't need them. And that's been my case for sure. As I started my small business 20 some odd years ago, I remember the struggles that I had trying to get a bank to pay attention to me and going through the process of filling out applications. And it wasn't easy. And it was a lot of rejection and a lot of being told that I was not, what they were looking for as a customer. Even today, I've been in business 20 some odd years. There are plenty of bankers that I know, many of whom I claim as friends, and we can talk and hang out and laugh and watch football and whatever it may be together and high five with the best of them. But when it comes to business, they're often a little bit dismissive of me. I'm not exactly what they're looking for. So I have a healthy respect, but a recognition that I am often not what they want. And I'll be honest with you, a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I don't like being treated that way, being told that I'm not relevant to these people. Now, there are notable exceptions, people that have really treated me well, but there is a bit of a chip on my shoulder. Then the phone rang several weeks ago. Actually, phones don't ring anymore. I don't know that anybody calls anybody unannounced. It was an email that showed up. It was from Bob Jones. Bob heard one of my commentaries on Alabama Public Radio and decided to dig in and see a little bit about who I was. And he and I talked on the phone real quickly, traded some emails, and I learned about Bob and I learned about his bank. Bob is the president and CEO of United Bank, based in Atmore, Alabama. And after talking with him for a while and learning what it is that their bank does, he is interested in the people who can't normally capture the attention of the banks. He and his bankers are interested in people who don't fit the highfalutin profile of people who often don't need the money. And when I talked to him and I learned a little bit about him, and I'm going to perhaps make a stretch here, saw and met and familiarized myself through our conversation with this man's motives, with his soul, I thought this man needs to be on the radio. This man needs he needs a bigger audience. And I thought, hey, I'm doing him a favor until I talked to him and realized he's already got a big audience. I'm late to the game. The man is well known, respected, maybe even say adored by the people that he works with and works for, works around, etc. When we get back, I want you to meet with me, Bob Jones, the president and CEO of United Bank. Hear his story, and most importantly, hear the work that he and his team are doing to influence the communities they're in. I came away really, really charmed by this guy, impressed, and am proud to know him. You're going to meet him when we get back. I'm Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be back.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
When you make the right decision, it feels good, like picking the perfect accent rug or choosing a good night's sleep over an all-night crime show binge. It feels really good to make the right insurance decision, too. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I'm right here in Mobile to help you select the right protection at the right price. I'll make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With me as your State Farm agent, it's easy to make the right choice. You can come by, call, or click AllisonHorner.com. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm in the studio today with Bob Jones. He's the president of United Bank based in Atmore, Alabama. His bio and resume is really impressive. Bob, I'm going to put some of it in as we continue through the program. But right now, you're the president and CEO. You joined the bank in 1990 and became the president and CEO in 1992. 2 years. That didn't take long.
That's true.
I think it begs the first question of tell us a little bit about you and how you managed to so quickly go up the ranks at United Bank.
Interesting story, Cam. I came out of I'm an Auburn grad, and I was went into the Navy for a few years as part of my ROTC commitment. And after finishing that tour, came back, went to grad school there, and got my MBA and taught accounting at Auburn for a while. Decided to go into the private sector out of education and had an opportunity to go to work in Dothan, Alabama as the CFO for what was then a company called Dothan Oil Mill Company, or DOMCO. It was an agribusiness company. We were in the peanut industry all over the Southeast and had a good run there and learned a great deal as a green young person going into business and was probably way over my head at the time. But diversified into some bioenergy work as a part of that, and then had an opportunity after that to go to work for a public company out of Philadelphia called IU International. And they were acquired as part of a raid of the 80s. Mm-hmm. And so had a chance to go to Stamford, Connecticut, or stay in L.A., and so I decided this L.A. boy was not going to Stanford and Stanford. And so the bank was at a point of transition. I had never worked in banking, and took the chance to take the position and learn about it. And circumstances just evolved after I started in 90 and became the president CEO in 92. And it was learning under fire, to say a lot of things. But I think what I came away from is that the basic understanding of businesses and customer relationships, regardless of the line of work that you're in, are relevant. So I kind of brought a different perspective to banking that was highly regulated at that time in a way that is somewhat different than today. But I think it helped in that standpoint. And as I learned more about the industry, the company evolved. And so that's where we find ourselves today.
So the bank began in, where do I have it here, 1904.
1904.
You became the president in 1992. Mm-hmm. It's changed remarkably since then, I know from our conversations. You've given me your background. Tell me about your bank.
Well, as you said, it was founded on January 4th in 1904. At that time, it was a fascinating time in history. If you look back, it was a time when the Wright brothers were flying. There was just this spirit of innovation and creativity across the country as we were coming out of a very different period of time at the turn of the century then. And so a group of local businessmen recognized the need that for an area to evolve, they needed a bank. And they formed a bank. At that time, it actually predated the founding of the city of Atmore. And, if you look back in history, the evolution of commerce have followed a pattern. We started with the early trails that came into the southeast in Alabama, the old federal road, so to speak. Then it was the rivers that created commerce. In many of the old communities we have in Alabama, whether it's Mobile or Camden or Demopolis and Selma and Montgomery, all centered along the rail rivers. Atmore in many communities then were a byproduct of the railroads. And Atmore was a stop on the railroads at that time. And the bank started to provide financing to farmers and businesses in that area, came into fruition. And from that early days, it was the same thing that we follow today, that for a community to prosper, you needed a financial institution providing resources to help grow businesses. And we've remained very true to that model. We started in ag lending. The first loan the bank ever made was a farm loan. We still are one of the largest ag lenders in the financing space in Alabama. But it has evolved and diversified as the economies that we serve have changed. And truly, I think that's the power of the community bank model. There are a lot of banks in America. Our banking system is unique in the world. Nowhere else in the major economies do community banks exist. And the beauty we have is that we can take that underlying framework and evolve to serve the uniqueness of the area and the regions that we serve. Our bank, while it's very similar to a lot of others, is very different in a lot of ways because we really engage with our community to understand what their needs are and help provide those resources to help the communities grow and prosper.
So you say that you try to understand the needs of the communities. My suspicion is I could have a banker from one of the big 5 banks here on the table, and they would say something similar. What makes your efforts to get to know the community unique?
And you're right. I mean, if you think about it, the actual transactional banking, the loan, the deposit, it's a commodity to a great extent. I mean, because you can get those kind of capabilities wherever. But what we have learned over the ebbs and flows in the economy is that it becomes very relevant when a business is under distress. The personal knowledge of the principals in the business and observing their day-to-day practices with decision makers that can act locally is very powerful in getting small business through difficult times. We saw this during the Great Recession. Our bank was in a very strong position with a lot of capital. We had some local businesses that were struggling, but for our ability to use our capital as a buffer to their problems, they wouldn't be there today. We took a great deal of risk, and we put our capital at risk to backstop some of those small businesses that otherwise the regulators would have come in and said, you need to shut them down. We said, no, we know what they're doing, and these people are going to make it through this. They just need the underlying support to help them get through this difficult period.
So your decisions were made beyond P&Ls, beyond balance sheets. It was your knowledge of the people who were going through this struggle and your knowledge of their marketplace to say there is an end in sight to their struggles because we know the discipline of the people, the integrity of the people, and we know this marketplace a little bit better. Once again, as this show continues to reveal, it was a relationship that you had with the people that you know from social circles or church or whatever it may be. Is that correct?
Oh, it's absolutely correct. I mean, that is the beauty of the model. Anybody. If what happens is when a business is in a strong position, they can get loans anywhere.
Yeah.
When they really need you, they're not there. We saw this in the most recent period with the PPP loans that we're just going through now. We did during that period most recently about 950 of the PPP loans with an average of about $50,000. The smallest was $400. The largest was just under $2 million. Many of those businesses, over 350 of those loans that we made, were to businesses that were not our customers. They could not get an institution to respond to them or help them with that process, or their institution chosen not to participate. We stepped into the void and said, no, this is important. These businesses will not make it through the COVID experience without this, and we offered it. So I think that it's very much relevant to that decision. I think that's what sets that community bank model apart, because you're right. You can take the financials and you can analyze them.
Yeah.
But you can't understand the spirit or the tenacity or the drive behind the principles and their commitment and their ability to weather difficult times.
Do you see yourself as a white knight?
Some may not think that. I think we're more of a partner. There's a difference. Banks don't get paid for equity. We get paid, we rent money.
Yeah.
So a white knight, in my judgment, comes in and puts equity at risk. I think we're a partner to them because in many cases we become more than a source of credit. We become an advisor. Many small businesses don't have a board of directors. They don't have, a CPA or someone that can advise them. And many times those advisors just are providing a service. We actually sit down with them and say, let's talk about this. They'll come to us with a dream or a problem, and they think they know what they want. And what we find is, well, that's probably not exactly what you need, but let's talk about an option to that. Mm-hmm. And we modify their expectations in a way that we find a solution that's workable. Because at the end of the day, we want to make a loan that's going to be repaid. We don't want to make the problem worse. But if maybe there's something we can do a little bit different to make that a successful.
You're emotionally invested in these people. Absolutely. Is it a calling?
It really is. I've often asked about banking as a career, and what I've, in my 30 plus years of experience in this, have come to realize that it is one of the unique opportunities to have a challenging technical profession that you also can make a major difference in the communities and with the people you work with. I once had a mentor who told me, said, you could go to one of the cities and be, a fish in a big pond. Said, you can stay in small communities and make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's what we really do in some ways. It's technically challenging. It's a complex business today with, all of the components that we manage on a day-to-day basis. But it gets down to making, I recently did an interview and I said at the end of the day, if you've made a difference and been successful, that you have played a part in a customer's quality success, that's a good day.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
When we come back from break, I want to talk about your mission statement because it reads, the tail end, an emphasis on underserved and economically distressed communities within our diverse footprint. You're going where there's not a lot of activity, where most bankers would seem to want to go where there is a lot of activity. And I want to talk about that as a motive and how you convince people that you're there to help when they may look upon you with some suspicion. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm in the studio with Bob Jones. He's the president and CEO of United Bank based in Atmore, Alabama. We'll be back after this break.
Hi, I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing in downtown Mobile. We make drinkable, flavorful craft beer perfect for life on the Gulf Coast. So pick up one of our six-packs before your next adventure or stop by our tap room for a relaxing afternoon with friends. Follow us on social media for the latest beer releases and events and ask for a Braided River at your favorite bars and restaurants. Thanks for your support. We look forward to sharing our beers with you.
This is Cam Marston, and I'm with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, if a homeowner thinks they have termites, do you offer inspections? What about someone buying a new home? Can you come in and take a look and see if there are termites in their new home?
Yeah, basically what we would do on a home above and beyond anyone else is we actually do a thorough inspection. But above that, we will use infrared imaging that will allow us to see problems in the wall and at times can tell us if there's anything going on.
That's fantastic, Cajun Mike. How can people find you?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com. listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio today with Bob Jones. He's the president, CEO of United Bank. Been in that role since 1992. He's a Navy veteran, has a Bachelor of Science and an MBA from Auburn University. Graduated from the Southwestern Graduate School of Banking at SMU and the ABA National Commercial Lending School. You guys are very proud of titles in this industry here.
We give away titles easy in banking.
And I highlighted this one just so I'd get to say it, and that is he is on the, if I got this right, Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta Community Depository Institutions Advisory Council. Lots of syllables. I have a hypothesis that the longer the title, the more the syllables, the smaller the actual role it is.
Well, that may be partially true.
So at your bank, you're CEO.
Right.
That's really simple and 3 letters and 3 syllables. However, at the Federal Reserve Bank, it's a mouthful, whatever it is that you do there.
That is an interesting institution.
Yes, I'm sure it is. A
lot of people think it's part of the government. It's not.
It is not. Interesting. Okay. I did not know that. I'm glad to know that. When we were, during the break, we were talking a little bit about some upcoming work that I have, which is trying to drive the youngest generation of banker into traditional banking. Their fear is that they are going to use whatever online institutions they can and not make relationships with bankers and only do things through the technology that's readily available in their pocket, right? Their phones, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Do you have a concern that the next generation will be underbanked or not value the services that you have? What are you all doing to combat this?
That's a complex question. It doesn't really matter what business that you're in my opinion, that you have to stay abreast of the changing dynamics in the marketplace. You know, one of the things about an institution that's been around over 100 years is if you look back at its history, it had to reinvent itself and evolve as changing dynamics. Somebody sat there and said, car got invented. We got to have a drive-through.
Yeah.
Somebody thought that, and adapted to it. Business history would teach you companies that don't evolve die. I mean, look at Sears and Roebuck.
Sure.
I mean, you just take any number of, traditional mainline companies that somehow missed the signals that things were changing. They became the dinosaurs, and not many dinosaurs walking around anymore. So either you're going to evolve and adapt. So in answer to your question, it can be a threat or it can be a strength. What we have chosen to do is embrace that understanding. Technology in and of itself can be a very powerful tool to improve productivity, but it will never replace relationships. So we understand that we have got to use technology in a way to serve our customers when, where, and how they want to be served. We can't force them to come in the bank. But what we do know and what some of the failings of the data would tend to support is they look at a person at one point in time and assume they're going to behave that way for the rest of their lives, and that doesn't happen.
That's a good point.
People evolve. Their needs change. The complexity of their financial requirements evolve. And so early on, no, they don't need that. But if you can engage with them and meet their transactional needs, because that's all that's going to do, is going to give them money when they want. They can pay it and do Venmo or however they choose to do it. But one day, they're going to need to have that connection. And if you've built that relationship, when they have that question that they can't answer themselves, they need to know, who can I call? It's like Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? And we use that theme when we first started having internet banking, because you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And so the question we pose, who are you going to call when you need help? And where are they going to be? Are they going to be a call center off somewhere else? Are they going to be somebody on the street corner that you can walk in and sit down and have a conversation with? We choose to do both. And we believe there's value in that. But I do know, and I've seen it over and over again, that people need that. When things get tough, you need a relationship. So to the question that really underlies this, and this is a passion that I have, I also chair the American Bankers Association Foundation, which is focused on financial literacy and competency. And I feel like, and this is borne out by a lot of data, that from a societal standpoint, we have failed multiple generations of Americans to train them to be good stewards of the hard-earned money they get.
Yeah.
We put them through school and we said, go forth and do well. Well, we have seen, i.e., the student loan debt, that's such a massive problem. We've seen the housing problems that was created out of the Great Recession. We need to train people to be financially competent. And if we do that, they're going to be better stewards of their money. They're going to make good decisions. And, some of the studies, like 60+% of the Americans believe that financial training should be a core competency taught by our schools. And we don't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that underlies this millennial problem. And I think it's a deeper question that really is worthy of more study.
I've said many similar things, and that is, I phrase it this way: when the money begins to matter, when the decisions really begin to matter, then they're going to look for eyeballs to talk to. And I believe that to be the case, and I don't think I was any different at that age. I'm curious, and I'd love to talk about this. I don't know if we have the time, but how you feel your branding and the places that you choose to appear in the communities in which you exist are for the purpose of becoming relevant to this next generation. And I also want to talk to you about something that you all do, is this small dollar loan program. On one of the brochures that I found of you there, there are payday lenders charging an APR of 425.9%. Anybody who's been financially educated would know that's not a good deal. That is a quick fix. That's not a good deal. But before we get into that, I want to mention the one of the challenges that you all have identified and seem to be doing well is something that my buddies at Sandifer Wealth Management are doing well. That's Jamie Sandifer and Mark Sawyers. They're financial services providers. They are a fee-only group. They are a fiduciary. They put their client first and have been in business since 1982. Their focus is tax stuff. They help you with your taxes and making the best decisions for tax organization, and they specialize in working with retirement plans and rollovers, small business owners, entrepreneurs, physicians, individuals, etc. Very much a family atmosphere. These people are very clear on what it takes to run a business and to prepare for a retirement. And if you have any interest in the services they offer, you can find them at sandiferwealth.com. Bob, let's get back into one of the things we were talking about, which is how are you using your branding in certain environments to try to make yourself relevant to a next generation of client?
I think we are. It's an ever-evolving skill set, and we spend a great deal of time listening to people. We've got advisory boards, and we have some of those are comprised of what we call the emerging generation group. And they have a different set of needs. I think where we have really focused our energy and passion in is that we particularly, because of where we're from and where the institution was founded and what it made a commitment to in its early days, the rural areas and some of the challenges that you have in sections of our state and country that don't have the same benefits because of scale and resources to create the dynamics that are important for sustaining those communities. And early on, those communities were very vibrant, and it something we see. There's such latent talent and capacity there in the people and the passion they have for their homes that what we also, by virtue of our work, have received that designation as a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution.
I want to talk about that.
So to maintain that designation, the markets we serve have to be 60% of them are distressed economically. And so that means that you're working in some of the more challenging market areas with some of the challenges that exist with that. And so it requires a different model. What we have been able to do is take that designation and the programs that it allows us to bring into our communities and channeling them directly into some of the more distressed areas in our state, and making a difference. We're attracting capital and jobs and investment. We're working with elected and community leadership to provide resources they wouldn't have otherwise been aware of. And I think to a great extent, we're helping them see opportunities that probably they weren't aware that they could take advantage of. It does make a difference. And, we are focused on job creation because we believe that a good paying job can solve a lot of the problems that we have from healthcare to societal to a lot of things that go on. And that's where we're really focused.
Who awards the CDFI designation?
It's by the U.S. Treasury.
Okay. And one of the bullet points that I see is that you must maintain accountability to the community it serves. How do you do that?
Well, we prove it by the work that we do, and when we analyze the loans and deposits we have, we map those to the actual census tracts that are needing those resources. The programs that we compete for, and the work that we do as a CDF, we were the first in Alabama to receive the designation. We're the first and only CDE in the history of Alabama, which allows us to manage programs like the New Market Tax Credits or the Capital Magnet Fund. Alabama has not been a participant in this space. Our institution made a commitment in 2010 to step into this void, to learn more about these programs, to bring them to our state and our region, to help support the growth and the opportunities that existed. And we remain the only one doing this work. And so it's rewarding, and there's a myriad of stories that we could share about that.
Well, tell me one. I want to hear a sample, a case study, if you will.
Yesterday, we had a groundbreaking in Atmore. It was for the Coastal Growers Peanut Shelling Plant.
Coastal Growers Peanut Shelling Plant.
Correct. So the peanut industry traditionally had been in the Wiregrass, Dothan enterprise in that area. And over time, because of the success of the farmers in this area, particularly Escambia, Monroe, Baldwin counties in that area, some of the best peanuts are grown in the world right here. It had gotten to the scale where a group of, it's now 100 farmers came together, said we need our own shelling plant to process the products that we have. And so we got involved in helping what was then the early organizing group find a location and help them analyze the options they had available to them in multiple states. We showed them why this area was an appropriate place to build it. We were able to help them source the location that made them eligible for new market tax credits. Yesterday at the groundbreaking, Governor Ivey was there and a whole range of all of the congressional delegation. And this was a very complex project that we led the structure of the financing behind it. We put $40+ million in tax credits into it. That we led a team of 4 other CDEs to provide that. We helped source other lending products to help with the financing package of it. We worked with the USDA to get a $40 million guarantee on that project. It was the largest that the Secretary of Agriculture personally had to sign the guarantee. So at the end of the day, through the collaboration between the organizers and our team at UB Community Development, it's underway right now. And that's almost a $90 million project that's going to create hundreds of jobs. The products that are produced there will go all over the world. It's some of the best food products that can be produced anywhere. There are 3 or 4 other new industries that are looking at joining the development of the project. That project would not exist but for this program that we do. That's tangible.
That's going to be a big old place.
It's a huge undertaking. It's a regional product. I mean, they'll be drawing products from Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, the whole region. It is very much a regional product.
Congratulations.
Well, they did it. We just worked with them. We had the team that had a passion for it, and literally to the day that the deal closed, they were just fighting to keep the structure together to make it happen.
When we come back from break, I want to ask you what questions, if you could give someone a checklist, perhaps there's someone listening that says, maybe these people could help me. And if there's a checklist that they could kind of answer in their head to determine whether they should find one of your bankers out there and talk to them about their challenge or their dreams and their hopes, as you mentioned a moment ago, and see if they don't qualify for some of this type of stuff. And like I said before, I want to get into this predatory lending stuff. There might be somebody out there that could use your services. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back after this break. I'm with Bob Jones, President, United Bank, based in Atmore, Alabama.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
This is Cam Marston with Cajun Mike of E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, houses on pilings can have termites eat their way up inside the piling and enter the house. The homeowner never knows about it, but your company offers protection. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Cam. Basically, what we have designed is a program, and what we do is we will actually drill to the center of the pilings and put a product in the center that will stop the termites from coming up into the home.
Stucco exteriors as well?
Correct.
How can people find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at e3pest.com.
That's the letter E, the number 3, pest.com.
Think about your home. What do you see? Do you just see 2 stories or the stories of your toddler's first steps? Now think about your car. Do you see an odometer reading or your kids reading in the back seat? Other insurance companies just see a house. They just see a car. But a State Farm agent sees what your home and your car really mean to you. So why not give them the protection they deserve?
You can reach me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, at AllisonHorner.com.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio today with Bob Jones, the president and CEO of United Bank based in Atmore, Alabama. He's a past board member for the Bay Area Food Bank here in Mobile. He's on Business Executive Council for the Mitchell College of Business at the University of South Alabama, as well as the Auburn University Alumni Association Board. I don't suppose I have to ask you at all, considering the depth of Auburn in your background here, who you cheer for on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I kind of bleed orange and blue.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So a couple things that I want to touch on before we wrap up, and that is the predatory lending. First is the checklist. Is there a checklist you can offer somebody that may be struggling to get the attention of a bank that you could offer them that they may say, hey, maybe this one's for me? And then let's talk quickly about the predatory lending and what you see for your future.
Well, let's talk about predatory lending.
Okay.
We mentioned earlier about this issue of financial competency as being a perpetual challenge. There are segments of our communities that have an aversion for dealing with a bank for a lot of cultural reasons or family history or whatever it might be. If you've never had a relationship with an institution, it's very difficult in some people's mind to think that they can establish one. So we really work to try to open our doors to help people build that relationship, because the reality is to get in the mainstream of the economy, you need a credit score. Mm-hmm. The way you get a credit score is establishing a relationship with a bank and prove that you're going to repay. Get a $500 loan and repay it. Get a secured credit card. Start the process somewhere. And that's what we do in that area, is to help people, get out of that cycle of predatory borrowing, move into a cycle of demonstrating their ability to manage finances. We do that with some success, but there's some that just, frankly, it fails. It doesn't work out. But that doesn't mean you don't try. So predatory lenders are what the payday lenders are, the others that are out there. It's like you have a need for X amount of money that you want for a specific time. You walk in and you know what this is going to cost you. You don't think of it in percentages. When you hear 400%, that sounds egregious, but they think it's $50 to get $200 or whatever the number is. Yeah. And I can do that because I have this need and I have to solve it now. And you'd be shocked at who are using those vehicles. So we've got to get past this preconception that it is bad in itself. What it does is a symbol of something that's different. And so we have to find a way to help them get in that mainstream. And that's what we do as a CDFI and the small dollar loans that we do. Because once you're there and you have a relationship, then when that need comes up, we can help fill it. Yeah. But once if you stay out of the mainstream, then you're always going to be in a cycle of having to go to those predatory lenders. Maybe there's the way the predatory lenders talk about what they do, the way they market themselves works for a certain segment of the population. It does. It's a convenience thing. I need it now. And I come in and I get it, that you don't have to go through all the stuff that we have to do as a regulated bank. And so some of the problems that we've had is the regulations as issued by the prudential regulators, the bank regulators, have forced banks out of that space. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult because we take a lot of risk as an insured depository to get back into that space. And so we try to do that in a measured way to provide quality solutions that help solve those problems and break that habit of having to rely upon that source of credit.
Yeah. So if there's anybody out there who has used something like that, you would encourage them, stop by one of our banks. Let
Absolutely.
us tell you the difference.
That's right.
And let us begin a relationship with you.
That's right.
That will benefit you and us, frankly, long term.
We'll put them in, even if they don't qualify for a checking account, we can put them in a prepaid debit card.
Yeah.
That has, the Visa, MasterCard logo.
Sure.
And so they have a card that allows them to plug into the world.
Yeah.
And you start with that. And then we can take it from there and build from it. I mean, it's just beginning that process. You got to take the first step. It's like trying to lose weight or get healthy. You got to make the first step.
Got to give it a try.
Got to give it a try.
Acknowledge the need, acknowledge the process, and give it a try.
I had a personal experience. We had a lady that did this. She got involved with us. We made her a small dollar loan. We helped her set up a savings account. And she paid it back, worked perfectly. She was making her last payment. She brought her 2 small sons in. She was a single mom. She wanted those 2 boys to see her paying off a loan at a bank.
That's beautiful.
That's what makes a difference.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So that broke the cycle.
Yeah.
That next generation now is comfortable working with a bank.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point to make. Those little boys are the target market that my client called me and said, how do we get their attention?
Yep.
And those boys now know who you are.
That's right.
Someday they'll make that phone call to you.
We help mama.
Yeah, we help mama. Now, what we're talking about is kind of small, what did you call them? They're not micro loans. They're small dollar amounts.
That's right.
But you also are a publicly traded company.
Right.
And you do some big stuff on that side of it. Tell me that.
Well, we do. We trade over the counter on the QX exchange. Our stock symbol is UBAB. We made a conscious decision to do that because the way that banks work is you're limited to your growth by the amount of capital you have. We thought we had a compelling story in the area of impact investing where we could reach out to investors, whether mutual funds or hedge funds or family managers, that said, I want to invest in something that's doing more than just providing a financial return. I want to put money in an organization that's making a difference, that has a philosophy around making improvements in the markets and the communities, whatever that social impact that you're looking for. So we decided to go to the public market, and fortunately, we're well received, much to the surprise of our investment bankers.
You told me that story on the phone. It's a glorious story. Give me the highlights of that story again. People need to hear this.
Well, when we went to the markets with this, the investment bankers said, don't talk about that feel-good stuff because that's not really what these people want to hear. They want to know how much you're going to make off of you and what's your rate of return. And so we had those meetings. In the morning, we started the round of investment presentations. I met with them at breakfast, and I said, guys, we are who we are. This is how we roll. And we're not going to change that story because either they accept the business model or they don't. To misrepresent it or not tell that, honestly, it's not what we're going to do. So we started the day, and over the course of the day, make a long story short, the whole mood of the meetings changed, and there was much more conversation about that story, not just the financial return. And when there were younger investment bankers in there, they immediately lit up. They saw the value in this. And so at the end of the day, we were oversubscribed 2-to-1 on the offering. And what it really allows us to do is we're attracting capital literally from all over the United States, and New York and Chicago and San Francisco and Seattle, and bringing those dollars back to L.A., Lower Alabama.
Sure.
Investing them in our communities, and we're able to take those dollars and leverage them 10-to-1. So we're taking money from Seattle, Washington, and putting it into Monroeville, Alabama.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
What is the future? Where do you see this thing?
I am so energized by this experience that we're on and what we're seeing, the difference that we're making. At this stage in my career, most of my friends have retired and said, I'm going to go play golf, do something different. I wake up every morning looking forward to the opportunity to work with a team of people we've assembled at the bank and at our holding company that make a difference. And we're achieving really spectacular results. We've been ranked number 9 in the country in the top performing 200 banks in financial performance. We're rated as one of the best banks in America to work for. We've got people that are saying, but for what you do, I would not be here. And that's irreplaceable. And so we're continuing to grow. and take this business model to other areas all over the state and making a difference. And that's a pretty amazing thing to do.
You're based in Atmore, but I notice all these little dots on this chart of where you have locations. You're all over the state. You're in Georgia too, if I read that, if I'm looking at it correctly.
Those are transactions that we have done. Yeah, we are headquartered in Atmore. We've got 22 offices. We do have an office in Birmingham that we run some of our programs out of. In this new workplace where we have remote working and that we've learned with our technology is cloud-based, so we allow people to work wherever we can find the talent. And so it is evolving, and it's a recognition that we have to adapt to that evolving model.
Well, let me toot your horn real quick. American Banker says you're one of the top 200 community banks. American Banker says you're also one of the top banks to work for in the year 2020. And Business Alabama says you're one of the best companies to work for in Alabama in 2020. You got something going on, or either you got a hookup in these magazines.
Well, I think being one of the top performing banks is because we're one of the best banks to work for.
Yeah.
It's about the people and the mission, and they feel good about what they're doing. They come in committed to the customers and creating something different.
Last question. It's Sunday. You're not having to do any banking business. Tell me about your Sunday.
Well, much to the surprise of most people, banking hours are not what they once were. Sunday mornings are a good time to get up before the busy start and catch up on some things you need to do, put some thought into the next week, begin to think about the priorities for the week ahead, and you never get away from it. When you're doing something you love, doing it is not work. And so every day of the week is just another opportunity to execute a strategy and think about the new things that are coming up. There are problems, and you got to sort through those. But it's like I said, when you do what you love, it's not work. It's rewarding.
I just don't see you laying around in bed till 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, no.
And then getting up and eating some Belgian waffle with, powdered sugar and syrup and blueberries on the top. It just doesn't seem like you.
5:30, I'm out the door getting my walk in, and my people hate it to get my emails at 6 and 6:30
on a Sunday morning.
On a Sunday morning.
Yeah. The bank never
it's
sleeps.
When you can think.
Yeah. Same with me. I get so much more done. I probably get twice as much done between 6 and 7 a.m. than I do the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No question. No question.
Yeah.
Because when you show up as a servant leader, you're there for them.
Yeah.
And I believe in a servant leadership model. And so that's my time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Bob Jones is the president of United Bank. Been in that role since and CEO, been in that role since 1992. Bank is based in Atmore, but they have a footprint all over the state and doing some great things. You called it socially responsible investing. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that the money that you would, if you were to buy shares of UBAB, the money that you're buying there, or the investment that was originally made, is going to help the communities all over the state.
It is, but in addition, we understand we have a multi-bottom line focus. Our priority is strong financial performance and community and economic development. We hold all three of those to our accountabilities. And so our shareholders have been rewarded nicely. And that's important. We understand that accountability, and we strive to meet those expectations, but we do it in a different way. We've phrased it doing well by doing good.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Bob, I think we're all lucky to have you around. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Cam. Enjoyed it.
We'll have final comments after this break. You're listening to What's Working.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at stellaartois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Ever dealt with the headaches of a poorly prepared estate plan after a loved one's death? Probate courts, attorney's fees? Join estate attorney Eric Cromwell in conjunction with Mobile Memorial Gardens at the Southwest Mobile Chamber of Commerce on April 15th, 16th, or the 18th to begin protecting your family with estate planning. The event is free. Estate planning is not for you. It's for your family. Contact Shauna at Mobile Memorial Gardens to make your reservation.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
Hey, this is Cam. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're really enjoying the podcast. Do me a favor and search for Cam Marston on your social media outlets and like us or follow us or whatever is the right thing to do. Also, if you know others who'd benefit from the podcast, please forward it on to them and encourage them to listen. If you're so inclined, we'd love your rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings matter. Finally, don't be a stranger. Email me with your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your show ideas, whatever. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for listening. Now, back to the show. Bob drove from Atmore to have that conversation with me in the studio. Our conversation began fairly early in the day. After our conversation, he got back in the car and drove to Montgomery to visit with a customer. And that, I think, folks, is kind of all you need to know. That eye time, that face-to-face time, that willingness to make the commitment. I appreciate Bob's efforts, and I'm happy to know him. I told you it was a commentary that Alabama Public Radio played that made him call. And the commentary you're about to hear is the one that prodded his calls, called the Coleslaw Challenge. It'll be our wrap-up for the show. John Thompson with Ion Digital is the show's producer. He would rather be on a boat than doing this editing right now. But thank you, John. Thank you very much. Have a good week, everybody. Enjoy the Coleslaw Challenge.
On this week's episode of Keeping It Real, Cam Marston invites us to take the Coleslaw Challenge.
An elderly woman was walking out of the grocery store empty-handed. She was moving slowly. She looked a bit uncertain, and I was behind her with my cart. As she stepped up to the automatic doors, they opened, and a middle-aged woman hurried through, and her body language said she was on a mission. Her face was set, her eyes were up. She was on the move, no time to spare. The elderly woman reached out her hand and stopped her. "Do you know how to make coleslaw?" she asked, looking into the hurried woman's eyes. The question startled the other woman, and I saw her flinch as she snapped out of her mission-focused trance. She looked at the elderly woman, and I could see her replaying the question in her head. She took a deep breath, her shoulders dropped, and she smiled. "Yes, I do," she said. "What do you need?" "Well," the elderly woman replied, a bit embarrassed, "I've forgotten what goes into coleslaw." Another smile, this one bigger. "Let's go," the middle-aged woman said, took her by the arm, and led her back into the grocery store. I continued into the parking lot, smiling. How wonderful was that, I thought. So great to see. It made me feel so good, and I wasn't even part of it. And when I got home that night, I told my wife about it. And I told my kids. And I told a guy I talked with on the phone that afternoon. Good news spreads, and it should. I was on fire about what I had seen, and I was so encouraged by what I saw that I made it the opening of this commentary. And it occurred to me that this is the great content that I'm here for. This is the type of stuff that makes me excited. These are the stories that we should spotlight, that should be told. And as I told these other people about these two women in the grocery store, I watched them get excited too. It's good stuff. The random acts of kindness that you and I know exist and that happen every single day around us, but we simply fail to notice them, or we won't allow ourselves to be moved by them. We're in our zone, not looking around. We're in our own mission-focused trans. Positive creates positive. Kindness creates kindness. It always has. It always will. Give away a smile, you'll get one back. Throw something nice out in our big old universe, and the chances are you're going to get something nice back. And it may look completely different. It may take its time, but it's coming. And it doesn't happen the same way on social media or watching the TV. It comes from getting out there and mixing it up with folks. Notice the things that make you feel good. Spend time on them. Let them permeate your bones. In my house, we're calling it the Coleslaw Challenge. I'm Cam Marston, and I'm just trying to keep it real.
To hear more of Cam Marston's commentaries, search for Keeping It Real on your favorite podcast app or find them on Facebook.